Hi, it's Ileana here. So I'd like to discuss my process of doing the various maps of locations of where I've been, starting with the Monarch Program. And this was when I was in Canada in 1993. That's when I landed in Canada. And the Monarch Program, they started taking me from 1995 to 1999. And I ended up somewhere near the Sierra Mountains, and it wasn't Sierra Nevada, California area. It was actually the Sierra Occidental Madre Mountains and the Sierra Madre Oriental Mountains. It was somewhere near between the Gulf of Mexico, like New Mexico, and Texas, like somewhere in between. It wasn't exactly in those states, but it was somewhere in between. And when I was doing my timeline recall of how the sequence of events happened, so basically I ended up mapping these locations without really knowing what the heck I was doing. And I have no idea where Area 51 is or the Dulce base, no idea. Turns out what I mapped in one of the sonic radar facilities and a secret base, underground base, weapons testing facility was actually near these areas, Area 51 and the Dulce base. So that was an interesting thing to look at. And one of the other bases that where when I was taken, when I was starting from 2 to 10, where I was literally abducted, I would say kidnapped by the Reptilians and their harvester race, where they did genetic experimentation and modification of my body, autoimmune system. So basically it was outside of the Ukraine at the time. I was living in the Ukraine and started in 1987. So I was taken to the Russian Federation location somewhere in a base. And I had no idea that there's actually a base there. It was a military district. I'm not familiar with European locations at all. This is when I was small. I just looked at the map, looked through my memory. Even as a child, I remember what it was, the experiences. So I just mapped it on the map. I just had a blank map. Didn't know the locations in Europe. It was outside of the Ukraine. And it was near Rostov, actually. As a general location that I do remember. So I had mapped it out, and there was a military district there up to 2010, and they say they did close the bases, but there's an active underground base still there. It's a secret underground base where they still do the genetic experimentation, and they have ETs coming and going. And what I remember from that time is there were young children chained in manacles to all the corridors and of the base and being held in small rooms, again, shackled to the walls with manacles and screaming and awaiting genetic experimentation. And there was also this huge, I guess it was a portal gateway room, where they were experimenting with portal technology and trying to open a wormhole. That's what the Reptilians were doing. And it actually exploded. The glass barricade. There was a huge glass partition to this room where the gateway portal was. It exploded because whatever they were doing with the wormhole technology, they didn't calculate it correctly, and it exploded. And through some kind of a time sequence of events, they were able to reverse the explosion and stop it by altering time sequence. And for some reason, I was standing near that portal gateway room as a small child, and I saw that happen, and I saw the shards of glass fly outwards, and then all of it flew inwards as they reverted time. They went back somehow and flipped this time sequence, to prevent this explosion from happening and to fix the calculations so explosion wouldn't happen. So that's my earliest memories of what happened with the reptilians and the harvester race genetic experiments, going back to the Monarch Program in the Sierra Nevada, not Sierra Nevada, that's upwards California, although there are secret underground dump spaces there, the Sierra Madre Mountains. Those facilities, I remember, were the Monarch Program ones, and I was held somewhere in the woods near a cabin, and I was continually drowned to see how long I could stay underwater. And this was done to test my brain synapses, to try to make both hemispheres of my brain the same and turn my brain into a supercomputer, to enhance my photographic memory. Somehow it was done through drowning a person continually in water. That's what I remember from those experiences in the Monarch Program. And in Israel, they also gave me a bunch of different drugs because I lived in Israel. So to see how my memory worked, to try to enhance my brain patterns. I don't remember any locations in Israel. What I mostly remember is the base, the Underground Genetic Experimentation Base near Rostov, outside of Ukraine, and the two, one sonic testing facility and the other secret weapons underground base near the Sierra Madre Mountains, between New Mexico and Texas, lower down. That's what I remember. The drowning, the cabin, all the different experiments they were doing. And they also tried for me to open naturally Stargateway portals on the property, on the land, near these bases, so out in the woods near the cabin. So that's what my memory recall is of that. And I try to use discernment and to question those memories, whether it's real or not. To me, it feels very real, those experiences. And also what happened to me on the moon and on Mars. I had been placed in a lot of the interplanetary corporate conglomerate bases and labs, 11 bases total. I also remember Mars Colony 1 and 2, and also some of the SSP and ICC docking facilities on the moon, some of their labs and bases as well on the moon. There's also the Dark Fleet and ICC base on the moon, and I've mapped those locations. A lot of them have been mapped, of places where I was put in as an asset. And that was like 60 years quantum time leap program, time travel program. Somehow they crammed 60 years worth into that cycle. Although I'm only 32 years old, somehow they were able to do it in a Earth time. It's about 14, 15 years. But somehow through the quantum leap time travel, I did 60 years. I know that they have the time travel technology to be able to do that. So I did 60 years worth of being an asset for the ICC primarily. And again, I've put all the locations that I'm able to to recall from the memory. I've put it all into the mapping. I've spent half a year mapping these locations with searchable Google Earth coordinates to find the exact places just from memory alone. And then later on, I guess I had no idea that those places actually did have physical bases there, military bases and stuff, from what I mapped. I was just kind of assuming that what I was mapping, the secret bases were there, but there's also actual acknowledged military bases near those locations that I mapped. So that's something interesting, and I just discovered that from people commenting on the maps, telling me, hey, because I posted the maps on Facebook groups, various groups I'm part of, like the Secret Space Program group, Terses, and some other groups, and people like, hey, did you know that the Dulce base and Area 51 is actually near the place that you marked off in the Sierra Madre mountain range? And I said to these people, I had no idea. I really was clueless that those bases were actually there, the acknowledged ones. I was just aware of the underground stuff, that I was mapping the secret bases underground. So, and also somebody mentioned from the Secret Space Program group, FB group, that there was an actual military district with bases near Rostov area, and that had been there until 2010. And I looked that up on Wikipedia, and interestingly enough, that military district had been there since 1918, all the way through World War II. And it was owned by the Russian Federation and the Soviet Union at that time, up to 2010. So that was interesting. And it's outside of the Ukraine, near Rostov area, the Underground Genetic Experimentation Base, where ETs were doing experiments, still are, using young children. So these are just things that I remember, and some of these memories are horrific. And again, I am using more discernment right now to sift through these memories and to see what's real or not, what feels right and what doesn't. And some of the things, the fact that there's acknowledged bases around what I marked off on the 3 maps of Earth, that to me brings some corroboration to my memory experiences. And it feels very real to me. I wish I hadn't gone through all of that stuff. The Monarch Program, the 60 and back, the experimentation, all those serums they gave me in Israel. I wish I hadn't gone through that, because my health is not perfect. I came out of all of that stuff with damaged health, fragmented brain damage as well. So I have health issues, and I don't hide that stuff. I've talked about it before. And I know it's related to all of that stuff that happened to me as a young kid, as a young adult, and also as an adult, when I was an asset in these programs and experiments. I can't put that history, what happened to me, I can't fully set it aside and say it never happened. Once you know something, you can't unknow it. So I'm acknowledging it, and I'm working through it to release it and to live in my current human life without those experiences interfering in what I'm doing now with my life, which is healing and basically doing release work. Yes, I'm talking about it and putting it out, what happened to me, these experiences, but I'm trying to focus on what's happening now in my life, grounding myself, healing myself, and just searching for a new life path. on Earth and basically being happy in my life. So I'm just going to put the maps in with this talk and include some music for the maps. There'll be 15 to 20 maps of these various locations that I had been in. So enjoy.